Introducing DSG's 5MT podcast, where we draw inspiration from the annual 3-minute thesis or 3MT competition for PhD candidates, challenging them to explain complex research in 3 minutes or less. In each 5-minute episode, we'll dive into a marketing topic, giving you actionable information in a fast-moving and fun format. Tune in for quick, valuable marketing insights on the 5MT podcast by your DSG marketing team.
Welcome to a special edition of 5MT. This is your producer, Jack Marinello. We're here with the halftime report. We just reached the end of Q2 here at DSG. A lot has happened in the past 6 months. We got another exciting half of 2024 heading our way. Paige, Mike, we've been through it from January to June now. There's been a lot to unfold, a lot of exciting announcements, a lot of exciting news. We've announced a couple of different divisions. I thought this would be a cool episode rather than tossing you guys a question to kind of go in a year in review so far as we end Q2 and look forward to everything that has to come within the rest of 2024. Personally, it's been a great 6 months. I think there has been a lot of exciting things, especially with being part of the DSG local team, that being launched a few weeks ago. Paige, I know you just recently announced Spark Catcher on 5MT.
Woohoo!
So a lot to unpack here. So I'm sending it over to you guys.
Jackie, that was great. I
good
didn't
start.
when you talk through everything that we've done so far in the first. How can we
need to say anything?
Seriously. How can we beat? How can we beat the second half? We've done so much in the first 6 months. How can we do more? How can we do more?
I think one thing we could talk about, Paige, as Jack's getting into it, is what are the trends we're seeing, and we'll give the listening audience something to look forward to, something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
I don't know, but personally, I feel like I blinked and there it is. Half the year's gone. So I know a lot of people are feeling that too.
Time can go quick, when your work life is full and personal life is full with kids and weekends are full with fishing and gardening.
Yeah, it is that time of year.
Yes.
So I want to talk about one thing that I think is on a lot of people's minds. It is fresh in my mind because I just talked to a few people, and Paige, you and I spoke to somebody this morning that there's been big shifts in their dynamic with work-life balance, right? So had a really interesting conversation with a couple of family members and some close family friends this weekend, all of whom work for large corporations, within the New York City metropolitan area. And to a T, each one of them said, we have basically a standing mandate to go back to work 5 days a week. And each one of them, although we're excited to see different coworkers, people that they've just had to Zoom with for the last 3 years, openly kind of expressed the challenges that kind of arise with the possibility of going back all those days. And I just find it interesting. I think that there's going to be some interesting shifts. There's going to be some challenges for people coming back, and then challenges for managing, people coming back 5 days a week. I think there's going to be a little bit of a sticking point for people that they're going to start requesting maybe going in 3 days a week or 2 days a week, and it's just. I think everybody's going to have to look to productivity and see what is actually happening. What does it, afford, workers who've had this flexibility. Most of these folks have gone into these jobs with this expectation that they can be partly remote or fully remote. So it's kind of a seismic shift for those folks. But I don't know your feelings, Paige, but it's going to be a challenge either way. Balancing it going forward.
I mean, they're having a pretty robust career prior to COVID and the pandemic, and then jumping into it. There is such a difference. There's just such a difference. And it's a feeling, it's an emotional thing. It's also just the urgency behind work has shifted. I think there's more expectations on life maybe taking a priority in
Yeah.
some cases too, which
I would agree.
I am definitely all for. Hopefully, Jack, you feel that at the workplace. For me personally, I do love seeing people as Mike and Jack probably know. I do like being in the workplace. I like that there's like a distinct cut off from like being at home, and that's my home and that's my life, and then I go to work, and there's that like chapter closed for the day, and then you can be at home, and I could be like, okay, now I'm the mom making the dinner.
Right. I mean, just kind of a tip, and a bit, I think about this a lot, but I think a tip for anybody who's got a business who doesn't necessarily need people to be in the office, or the physical, but, can have somebody work from home, but they do want to have people come back, and they want to be more of a community, more of a dynamic environment that way. I think two really good tips are: be honest with yourself as an employer and as an employee about the work that you can do from home and the quality of the work that's coming from home, right? If you're honest there, and then you're patient on the other side with any transition, whether it's coming back or adapting to 3 days versus 5 days versus one versus this, or additional flexibility on holiday weekends or something like that, there's going to be a transition, and there's going to be kind of a pushback either way. So I think those are really two good things to square. Just be honest, don't just make a rash decision, but be honest about what you're getting, what everybody's getting out of it, right? And then the other side, be patient to let it take hold and work that way.
Yeah, I think that's really actually very, very interesting for us to think about as DSG executives. So for me, I'll kind of roll it back to the Mark Tech. So I actually last week I just went to a conference called DigimarCon.
Nice.
It was awesome. It was in Chicago. I just went for one day, and one of the last sessions was led by an individual named Andy. I hope I don't botch his last name. Crestadina of Orbit Media. He's a leading expert in the marketing field, in SEO, analytics, website optimization, which is a lot. So
It's a lot of pressure.
Yes, yeah. So he talked, of course, the biggest buzzy thing right now is AI. But I feel like I have to talk about it because I thought he made some valid points. Like, I personally am not an AI expert. I have been using AI. And I think one of the biggest myths that he busted is that the use of AI saves time in building content. And so he did an experiment that he had a writer who utilized AI versus a writer, and I say copywriter, right? So someone who is really like a professional writer, and one who's not. And the feedback was, okay, either I can write this alone and do this faster, or you're making me consult with another tool, which is kind of slowing me down.
Interesting.
So that was one point.
Interesting way to think of it.
Yeah. So then another point was, everyone's sort of afraid that AI is going to be taking over these creative jobs. By the way, I wish AI could just do my laundry and not like paint a picture for me because I like painting. But
help me cook dinner.
That's another debate. Or help me cook dinner. Yes. But he also focused on what AI can't do. So one is be authentic, network, make real human connection. And then another is be creative. So within these
novel concept.
Yes, be creative, right? Be creative. So he gave this an example that like ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you use, it cannot write the very first Harry Potter novel, but it can write the 14th Harry Potter novel, because the way that the system and algorithms are set up is that it's based upon content or ideas that are already out there. Right. It can't just like come up with something new. So all that is, I think, for me and for DSG, these marketing tools are constantly changing, and AI is a huge thing right now. We're not quite sure what it really means for our field. And I think keeping those types of concepts in mind are going to be really important, of like, we want to use AI as a tool. But what does that mean for our business? What does that mean for marketing? Right. I think that there's only opportunity. So I would like to explore that in the second half.
Jack, what's your feeling on AI? You have traditional tendencies. Sorry, Paige.
What does that mean?
He's got his old soul. He's like me. He's like,
you are an old soul,
You've
Jack.
got that in you. I understand.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but what do you think? Where does this go? I mean, you're obviously at a different part of your career than we are, and you're getting into this kind of head on. How do you feel about it?
When it comes to the workplace, I think it can be very helpful in certain things, especially when we're creating like ads, you know, just kind of using what I can come up with and kind of like, can you reword this? There's plenty of times where I'll write maybe an email or something, and I'll just like be like ChatGPT, like, does this sound okay? Like, he's like,
is this too harsh?
Now they're not personable with me.
Make this funnier.
Yeah, and I that's my favorite thing about AI is like kind of just like it will never give me what I want right away, and I'll be like, well, can you make it sound a little more silly? Like I'm trying to make this Instagram post like a little quirky, like, you know.
Yeah.
And if you throw that out there, it's definitely a helpful tool.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as one that I held myself accountable to be creative.
There you go.
It kind of holds me back.
There you go.
I love that, Jack. I love that. That's how people need to view it. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
But no, that's the kind of like the end of it for me. It's like I don't necessarily like it because it makes me lazier, and it's hard not to use it as a tool because it's sitting right there in front of you.
Yeah.
But in reality, I've always loved to write, and it's like when I'm writing certain things, now having that tool or that sidekick of ChatGPT or any AI component, it just makes me feel like I'm doing less effective work. You know, overall.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
that's
Hold
a really
yourself
good thing.
accountable to be creative. You need to put that quote in the post when you set this up. And that kind of, it brings the whole thing around of what I said before is like how in the second half can DSG be authentic, network, and connect, right? To facilitate growth of our brand. And then how can we hold ourselves accountable to be more creative? I love that, Jack.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to DSG's 5MT podcast. I'd love to thank my co-host, Mike Gatos.
Truly my pleasure. And I would like to give a big thank you to our producer, Jack Marinello.
If you enjoyed this podcast, like and subscribe to 5MT. Have a question? Leave a comment. Tune in next time.
Happy marketing.